introduction. Here's Ann in Harriman.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out. I hope a few more will wander in as we get going. As Tom described, we were very successful in terms of the format last week, so we're going to stick with the winner. So Stacey, if you'd like to start and do an introduction, about 5 minutes.
Can everyone hear me okay? It seems very loud. Good evening. Thank you so much to Medlock Bridge for putting this together, and Tom. It means even more because our debate last week got cut short, so I really appreciate you all being here and giving us an opportunity to let you know us and our platforms. So about me, I'm Stacey Skinner, City Council candidate for Post-2. I moved down to Georgia when I was 9 years old from Long Island, and I was raised in Lawrenceville, Georgia. I've always been a hard worker. From the age of 14, I had a real, and I'm not talking about babysitting, I had a real tax-paying job. By 16, I worked for the Administrative Office of the Courts in Gwinnett, and by 20, I was a director for the Administrative Office of the Courts, and at 21, I took a position with Chief Judge Melody Snow Connor, which she wasn't chief at the time, but she was at the time she retired, Superior Court Judge, all while I worked on my undergrad at the University of Georgia. So I don't shy away from hard work by any means. My husband and I moved to Johns Creek in 2013 with our 2 daughters who were 1 and 5 at the time. And now I resigned from my job after working 10 years in public administration. I resigned to stay home and raise the girls, and I went back to work 7 years ago for a small workers' comp and personal injury firm in Atlanta. And when we moved to Johns Creek, we knew this is where we were going to be. We love it here. We feel so grateful. So the first thing I did is start volunteering. I wanted to get roots out in the community, and I wanted to get to know everyone. So I volunteered at Barnwell and our church and on our Rivermont board, and then that's where I currently sit as association president. And then last year I was appointed to the Johns Creek Board of Zoning Appeals and sat there for about 18 months until I had to resign to run for city council. So the most important thing to me is us maintaining our quality of life. Now, all other candidates may tell you the same thing, but you have to ask them what it means to them. To me, our quality of life is our property values, our schools, and the fact that we are the safest large city in the state of Georgia. And I intend to fight to keep it that way. I will fight for our quality of life. I will fight to ensure we have ethical governance. And I will fight to ensure we have wise infrastructure spending and that we support the police at all costs. Thank you so much, and I look forward to all your questions this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stacey. Larry, if you'd like to do an introduction.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Ann, Medlock Bridge, for putting this on. It is needed after the last debate was on fire. So my name is Larry DiBiase. I'm running for Post-5. I'm originally born in Buffalo, New York. I moved here back in '88 into Atlanta. Before that, it was Orlando. I went to the State University of New York, Buffalo, and also went to Canisius College. I've got a degree in accounting and a degree in international business and finance. I actually went into software and traveled the world, setting up call centers all over South America. I had offices all over the area. I was traveling for almost 25 years, and I was sort of a little tired of traveling. Excuse me. And so I decided I was tired, and Mexico City was getting very, very dangerous. So I decided to switch careers, and back in 2012, I actually retired from the software industry and telecommunications and actually went into real estate. I have my own real estate firm now, a brokerage firm. I've been in Johns Creek for 27 years with my wife, Susan, and my daughters, Selena and Christopher. So Selena and Christopher both went to Medlock Bridge, River Trail, as well as Northview High School right now. He plays football, and she cheerleads. So vested in Johns Creek. It doesn't get any more than that. Over the course of years, I've volunteered a number of committees and boards. I started with my HOA as secretary, as well as the Architectural Control Committee. And that's always a thankless job, making sure those hedges are perfect. I moved on to the Johns Creek Community Association, or JCCA, and I wanted to step up and actually help more people in the city. It was on that I chaired the zoning committee for a while with yours truly, Harriman. And from there, I moved on to, I was appointed to the Town Center Advisory Committee, or TAP. Spent a year on that committee looking at the best town centers around us, Duluth, Suwanee, Alpharetta, Milton. We took the best elements of all those town centers and put them into the plan. And actually, it's up for the Planning Commission tonight being voted on, whether it's going to move forward or not. And hopefully, with just a few changes, we'll move forward. I was also appointed to the Board of Zoning Appeals, or the BZA. The BZA is really interesting because it's the only board, if you will, in the whole city that actually adjudicates a decision. So we look at a variance zoning case that goes beyond just the what's written in the ordinances, and we actually look at the facts. If there's hardship, and make a final decision. Leadership at the last debate, they coined the phrase, "We're at the crossroads," and I completely agree with that. There's one thing I want you to think about during this election is one word. It's who do you trust? Who do you trust with your livelihood, your properties, your family? And I keep trying to share this with as many people as possible. This is not an experiment. It's not a student project. This is about your future and the future of Johns Creek. We all know that trust, we learn this from your children. Trust is never given. It's actually earned and it's learned, and you have to earn it over time. And so I share that with everyone. Do the homework. Look at the people that the candidates are running. Pull back the onion and figure out who has actually done the work, been involved with the community, and will actually look out for your best interests. There's $62 million in the budget. Who's going to be the custodian of that money? And it should be the person most qualified that you can vet out. And that money is your money. So you are the boss. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. So we have a slight difference tonight in as much as our two candidates are not running for the same post. So really, what we're going to do tonight is have the opportunity to hear how they would address the questions. We've got the questions either through email or cards that you filled out. So I'm going to ask the same question of each candidate, and I'll flip-flop who goes first. So the first question is around transportation. This came through the email. I'm concerned about transportation needs of blue-collar workers who have to travel to Johns Creek, for example, house cleaners, caregivers, hospital workers, teachers' aides, contractors, etc., in order to serve the needs of Johns Creek residents. Not all of them have automobiles. Many need public transport, such as MARTA buses. What do you propose in order to help these workers travel efficiently in order to serve the needs of the Johns Creek community? And a related question, what are your views on MARTA trains and buses? Larry, go first.
Thank you for the question. So MARTA is always a question that always comes up over almost every election cycle. In general, I believe in free market society. I believe that property values and affordable housing, how we move people from one part of the city to the other, is based on an individual. There are many cities throughout the country that people live outside the city and commute into the city. I believe MARTA is, the system is almost broken. We have a bus going from Medlock Bridge down to 285 today, in the morning and at night. It's virtually empty in both directions. And it means that most people don't really take it or see the value in that. And because Johns Creek is so spread out geographically, we don't have very many business nodes in which there's a concentration businesses that the bus can stop and move people around. They are going to have MARTA that's going up 400 to the Windward area, that will be there, and with the Cloverleaf that the T-Spot's going to provide. But I think MARTA needs a lot more work. I think we need to look at it from a regional perspective and understand the regional transportation aspect. And at some point in time, we need to embed that regional plan within our plan. But today, I do not support MARTA coming to Johns Creek.
Do you want to repeat the question?
Thank you, I apologize. Thank you for the question. I agree entirely with what Larry said. Technology is going in a whole other direction. Not only do we not have the infrastructure to support something, but we already have buses that aren't even being used. So I just have to default to, let's wait and see what the future holds. Pretty soon we're going to have, cars that are underground that you put a quarter in, well maybe not a quarter, but $1 and it takes you to and from. I don't think it's been a problem in the past, and I think, if anything, we can install some more traffic calming measures, but as far as MARTA coming out to Johns Creek, I'd say that we already have that with the buses. Thank you.
Okay, stay, because I'm going to ask the next question to you. This is a three-part question, and it's related somewhat. Describe what you believe affordable housing means in Johns Creek and what price point you believe is affordable. Do you want to see more affordable housing in Johns Creek? And if so, exactly how would you go about making that happen?
Okay, so affordable housing is a very ambiguous term. I mean, my house is affordable to me. I'm sure Tom's is affordable to him, but his isn't affordable to me. So it means something different to everyone. And I would say, if you're talking about smart housing, housing for our first responders and hospital staff, absolutely, I think we should have smart housing. But if you're talking about low-income housing, no, I don't think there's room in Johns Creek for low-income housing. Thank you.
Larry, do you want to repeat the question?
Sure.
It's a three-part question. Describe what you believe affordable housing means in Johns Creek and what price point you believe is affordable. Do you want to see more affordable housing in Johns Creek? And if so, exactly how would you go about making that happen?
Thank you. Affordable housing, as Stacey said, it's subjective, based on everyone's personal income and lifestyle that they want. I think today, if you were to go ahead today and look at the cost of an apartment or rent, it's about $1,600 to $2,000 for an apartment in Johns Creek. I don't know today if it's affordable. For that money, though, you can almost purchase a house. You can almost go out and get a mortgage and buy a house for that amount. Affordable housing, comes always back down to density. What is the density? How much density we need? The higher the volume, the greater the supply, the lower the price. And so density in affordable housing and workplace housing, all is sort of interrelated. And I think as we grow as a city and we look at the comments in the master comp plan, we have different nodes for this kind of density, different nodes for the type of housing we want. In the town center, there's going to be a mix, condominiums, apartments, and single-family homes and condos. So as we go and build the town center, I think we'll be more of a variety of houses and potentially, when I say, it's affordable housing. I just don't know as I sit here today in total what I was articulating. Thank you.
Stacey? I confuse myself. You've answered both questions. All right. All right, the next question is around the town centre and density. So Stacey, with the push for the town centre, do you support the current comprehensive land use plan which limits the density in the town centre, or would you support a higher density than those contained in the plan? If so, what specific density would you support?
I do support the density that's in the 2018 comprehensive plan. However, I can't give an answer to the density that would go at the town center. I would say that, there's different nodes that are going to be developed over the course of 20 years. So maybe what would work currently will need to be changed when they actually get to the rest of the town center in the next 10 to 15 years. But I will say there needs to be something that the citizens support, and each time they change the zoning, they have to have these meetings, and they have to hear from you all. So the only density that I would support is what the community wants. Thank you.
Larry, would you like to continue?
No, I'm good, thank you. So density is everyone looks at density as potentially a negative word and a bad one. Actually, density falls into some ROI model for the developers. You have to talk about density if you want to have an honest conversation about building a town center. It's cheaper to build vertically than it is to build horizontally. So when you look at a town center in the master comp plan, it says 18 units across the city. The town center comprises of 192 acres. So in total, the town center plan is deeper. It's identified the area of the more concentration. There may be 10 acres that actually are considered the downtown of the town center. So there you'll probably have a higher density, but as you move out beyond those 10 acres into the 182 acres, there may be a very, very low density. So density is always about balancing the development with the character and what the residents want here. And there has to be a positive ROI for any builder or they will not come. And it's just an honest conversation. So I support 16, but until we get more granular as far as the number, I have to just wait and see what the planning commission starts to pull together. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to stay with you on that. So related to that, as we look at higher density housing, what do you anticipate the impact to be on the schools, and how would you prevent making our schools overcrowded?
Okay, that's a hard question, because as we're looking at population and families coming into Johns Creek, currently, like Northview and some of the other schools are a little bit under capacity. There is capacity within those schools, and it's hard for us as a council to control what type of family, if you will, or how many children a family has, and what the population growth can be coming into Johns Creek. So it's a difficult question to answer as I sit here, only because I want to keep Johns Creek open to every type of individual, every type of family. I don't want to try to say, well, we've reached our capacity with the Board of Education. I think that's something we'll have to cross as we get further down the road.
Yes, so as we look at higher density housing, how would you manage the impact on the schools and prevent the overcrowding?
So to me, the need in our community from walk around canvassing is we need a place for our retirees to go. These homes are huge, 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. They want somewhere to downsize, but they want to stay in our city that they've come to love. So I think we need to encourage them to buy these condos or townhomes that we have around the town center. I think that they would like that. And then it would also free up the market to allow the families to move into these large single-family homes. But like Larry said, I don't know that we could regulate that, but I think as each node is developed, you can assess what's going on. And if node 1 is developed and it happens to be more families are moving in than there are retirees, then maybe when we go to look at approving node 2, we say, hey, we don't really need any housing right here because the schools are already full. So again, it's a long-term project that I think we're just going to have to look at and continually get community feedback, engage, what the needs of the residents are.
Thank you. I'm going to stay with you, Stacey. The next question is related to taxes. What are your thoughts on the current taxes collected by the City of Johns Creek, and will you make a change to it in the future, and why? And related to that, With changes in work from home economy, how would you address a potential downward trend in the need for commercial office space and a reduction in the current office space rent per square foot as it relates to tax revenue and future commercial growth in Johns Creek?
I'm sorry to do this to you, but can you read the first one over
Yeah.
and just that one?
Yeah. So the first one is, what are your thoughts on the current taxes collected by the City of Johns Creek, and will you make a change to it in the future, and why?
Okay, so I hope not to. Like, I totally love the fact we have the lowest taxes around. Like I said, I came from Gwinnett County. It was terrible. They kept increasing the taxes, but the quality of life went down. So my hope is no, that we never have to raise taxes. The reality, I don't know, because I can't see into the future, so I would hate to promise anything. We have huge stormwater issues that we haven't even dove into, so I don't know those needs going forward. We have a town center and a legacy center. I don't know if that's going to be a referendum on the ballot that will then add more to what you're paying. So in general, no, I really celebrate our low tax rate, and I hope that we can sustain that. And wait, read the second one again.
With the changes from the work from home economy, how would you address a potential downward trend in the need for commercial office space and a reduction in the current office space rent per square foot as it relates to tax revenue and future commercial growth in Johns Creek?
Well, I think we have to get innovative, and I think one thing the Economic Development Director has to do is go out there and reach out to the businesses that we have, see what we can do to support them, and then stay here in the city. And then, if there's empty office space that no one's using, we have to figure out a way to revitalize it and show them the potential that we have. Because we have so many great things here in Johns Creek that people should be running here, but they're not just yet. So we have to also relook at that business tax model and make sure we're doing everything we can to support the businesses.
I'm going to throw in one more related that I've just figured out. Where do you stand on the current millage rate? What are your thoughts on the role of the millage rate as a component of the total tax collections by the city? Would you support a millage tax increase as defined by state law while maintaining the current millage rate?
Well, I'm just going to revert back to my other answer. I want our millage rate to remain low, and no, I would never, we can't say until we're in that situation. We need to go into everything with fresh eyes and a fresh perspective, but to take it up would be to 4.7, I believe, and that just wouldn't be fair to do such an increase to the citizens.
Larry, I'm going to start at the beginning because these are long, complicated
Thank you.
questions. So the first one is, what are your thoughts on the current taxes collected by the City of Johns Creek, and will you make a change to it in the future, and why?
The current millage rate is 3.986, and we just had an increase from a previous couple years ago. We had decreased the tax millage rate, and we've come up and leveled it at 3.986. We are the lowest tax rate among all the cities around here, Sandy Springs and Roswell. I believe that most of the taxes are being generated by the businesses, the sales taxes versus property taxes. So I think as we move forward as a city and we bring business back into the city, I think we can go ahead and supplement the revenue coming in with new businesses coming into the city. I think the town center is going to provide an awful lot of lift for us for tax revenues, because businesses and obviously the residential component of that is included in that.
Okay, the next piece was, with the changes in the work from home economy, how would you address a potential downward trend in the need for commercial office space and a reduction in the current office space rent per square foot as it relates to tax revenue and future commercial growth in Johns Creek?
The commercial sector, the commercial property across all of the United States has taken a hit because the virtual workforce. There has been a reduction in cost per square foot. There's been tenants that have been renegotiating with the landlords to try to use different caveats within the contracts, acts of God with the pandemic, and trying to use that as a basis for negotiating a better lease rate. We have to be smart about this because most of the commercial office space is actually within the town center. We have a lot of buildings there, probably about 25 to 30 office buildings, and a lot of those landlords are actually struggling. We're going to have to potentially repurpose those buildings within the town center plan so we can boost those property values up again and go ahead and get more revenue from those properties.
And the last one was, where do you stand on the current millage rate? What are your thoughts on the role of the millage rate as a component of the total tax collection by the city? Would you support a millage rate increase as defined by the state law while maintaining the current millage rate?
Well, it's, I believe the millage rate is at 3.986, like I mentioned. As far as how is it composed of the rest of the budget, I would say it's probably makes a lot of sense as far as where we are today. As far as the revenue from other components that the state could be providing, I think we need to see as we go forward into 2022.
Keep you up there, sorry for the next one. With the issues addressing policing throughout the nation last year, what are your positions on the current state of the Johns Creek Police Force, the police chief, and the training of the officers?
Johns Creek Police, we should all be proud of. They are world class. They have, for a number of years, have won the CALIA Award, and it's an international award. It's made up of 469 specific components or criteria to win the award, and we won it. We have 79 current officers sworn in. The budget of the police is $13.1 million, and we just increased that 9% for 2022. When I sat down with Chief Mark Mitchell, and we had a nice conversation, I asked him one simple question: what do you need? Do you need training? Do you need people? Do you need technology? His answer was, I'm good. And that's beautiful to hear. That means the past city councils have funded them properly. And if elected, I will continue to fund the police and first responder to 100%. We'll give them the best tools that they need so they can do their jobs. And then hold them accountable, hold them to the highest standards that we can put on them.
With the issues addressing policing throughout the nation last year, what are your positions on the current state of the Johns Creek Police Force, the police chief, and training of the officers?
So, like to piggyback off what Larry said, we're in great shape. We have the best officers. They've been here for a while. Those that live in the city get a nice stipend to live in the city. They're well trained. They do perfect certification since 2010 with CALIA. Chief Mitchell said that he had everything he needed. I would never doubt otherwise. The officers we have, they fully vet. They go so far as to talking to their neighbors and going to their home before they're hired. So there's always bad seeds, but they do a really good job of making sure that they weed those out before they come into the department.
Keep you there. The next question. Could you comment on how your personal and professional experience would be specifically beneficial if you were to be elected to the City Council?
Sure, I would love to. Thank you for whoever wrote that question in. So I'm the president of the largest neighborhood in Johns Creek. We are the size of a small city. We have 941 homes. This is going to be a step up, of course, but hey, once you manage 941 homes and over 2,000 personalities and differences, I think you can do anything. The most important thing is to be transparent, and that's like one of my fundamental core values. Be transparent, be honest, uphold the highest levels of integrity, and earn people's trust. And invite everyone to be a part of it. Nothing good happens behind a closed door. So be communicative and let everyone know what's going on. And that's half the battle. I think that's what most people want